Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our program Tafseer al-Quran. Tafsir with your host. Alhamdulillah. We are discussing abrogation, meaning certain rules are no longer applicable by the advent of other ayats of the Holy Quran or by the Sunnah of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Before we went on a break, we were describing, or I was presenting to you, the viewing audience, classical examples from the Quran. And as I mentioned, according to my research, there are 12 places in the Holy Quran where the rulings are no longer applicable. So yes, you, the layman, if you read the Holy Quran and you want to apply the ruling, and this is what is occurring, and this is a very famous example here for those people who are claiming jihad to fight and kill the non-Muslims. Those people who are claiming to fight and kill the non-Muslims, look at this example of the Holy Quran. And this is where knowledge comes in. This is where knowledge comes in. Allahu Akbar. In chapter 2, verse 217 of the Holy Quran, it states, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الشَّهْرِ الْحَرَامِ كِتَالٍ فِيهِ قُلْ كِتَالٌ فِيهِ كَبِيرٌ Kul kitalun fihi kabir. Meaning, they ask you about the sacred month, about fighting therein. Say, fighting therein is a great sin. Now, what this means, Rajab, Zulqadar, Zulhajj, Muharram, these are the sacred months. In them, fighting is prohibited. Fighting is totally prohibited. And the ending part of this verse, fighting has become abrogated. Meaning, the ending part of this must say, Kutila fihi kabir, meaning fighting in death is a great sin. It has become abrogated by another verse of the Holy Quran. That is the verse here, chapter 2, verse 217, which states the middle verse of there. It states here in the Holy Quran, but averting people from the way of Allah and disbelief in Him and preventing access to a masjid, or especially Masjid al-Haram, and the expulsion of its people, therefore are greater evil in the sight of Allah, and fitna is greater than killing. Allahu Akbar. Fitna, people to cause fitna is even greater than killing here. And fitna is causing troubles, making problems, and etc. is even greater than killing. So that verse had caused the previous verse to become abrogated. Then you have the final verse, chapter 9, verse 36, which states, and fight against the disbelievers collectively as they fight against you collectively. What this means here, normally fighting was prohibited in the months of Rajab, Zulqadar, Zulhajj, and Muharram. These are the sacred months of fighting. But here, there's a consensus, it became abrogated. Should the disbelievers or the enemies try to harm the Muslims or fight the Muslims or command war against the Muslims, and it is the month of Zulqadar, Zulhajj, etc., then you are allowed to fight. The verse of chapter 9, verse 36. A fight against the disbeliever collectively as they will fight against you collectively. Only if they come collectively to fight against you. So you don't go and fight and cause problems. Now, the other example of abrogation, next slide, which discuss. Now, this here is very, very beautiful. And if one do not have knowledge, you will apply the law inappropriately and you will be in a lot of problems here. Look at this ruling. Chapter 2, verse 240 of the Holy Quran. And it states, and due to time, I'm just reading the English because we are very short on time. And those who are taken in debt amongst you and leave wives behind, for their wives is a bequest, maintenance for 1 year without turning them out. But if they leave them on their own accord, then there is no blame upon you for what they do with themselves in an acceptable way. Chapter 2, verse 240. What this basically means, after your wives, after you die and you left your wife behind, how long they should wait? They should wait for, here it mentions, 1 year. The iddat of a woman is mentioned 1 year, chapter 2, verse 240. So now, if someone wants to just apply this rule and say, hey, I died, you have to wait 1 year. Look at the Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 240 says you have to wait a whole year. And not knowing the actual iddat, which states in the other verse of the Holy Quran, beautifully states, chapter 2, verse 234, which states, in this verse, it states, and those who are taken in debt amongst you and leave wives behind, they, the wives, shall wait 4 months and 10 days. Allahu Akbar. See, 4 months and 10 days. These two verses talk about the ihdat, the waiting period of a woman before she remarries, after her husband dies. So you have the example, chapter 2, verse 240 states she should wait 1 year. Then there's another verse in the Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 234 states that waiting period is 4 months and 10 days. So if you are not have the knowledge of abrogation, what verse made another verse of the Holy Quran inapplicable? You will be misled. So this is how you have misunderstanding of the Quran in the public domain. People who want to quote the Quran without understanding the rule of the Quran, without understanding the knowledge or the wisdom in the Quran, they quote rules, they take ayats of the Quran just quoting it. Next example, next slide, when we have another beautiful example for us, the number 5 example, it states, whether you show what is within yourself or conceal it, Allah will bring you to account for it. Whether you show what you conceal or within, or what you conceal, or whether you show it or not, Allah is going to take you in account. From this verse, we understand that we will be taken into account for that which we conceal. However, this verse was also abrogated by the following verse of the Holy Quran. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, which states Allah does not charge a soul except with that within its capacity. I mean, your soul is not burdened or more than it can bear. So here you find the previous verse 284 was abrogated by 286. Allahu Akbar. Next example, please. Slide number, yes, Alhamdulillah. This here is another example we find for those who commit unlawful sexual intercourse of your woman, those who commit zina, adultery, bring against them 4 witnesses from amongst you. And if they testify, confine the guilty woman to houses until death takes them, or Allah ordains for them another way. That is chapter 4, verse 15. But this verse has become abrogated by the following verse. The unmarried woman or unmarried man found guilty of adultery or fornication, shall be lashed, each one of them, with 100 lashes. Allahu Akbar. See, 100 lashes. Before, the ruling was that they should be, you have to get witness. Find witness, 4 witnesses amongst you to testify and against them, and confine the guilty persons into houses until death takes them. They should be locked up in their homes until death takes them. This was the punishment, and this is what Allah has ordered for the Muslims, or He what has granted this way. But however, this has become abrogated by another verse, chapter 24, verse 2, which states, those who commit adultery, for the adulterers who commit adultery and zina, what you do to them, they should be lashed 100 strikes. Allahu Akbar. Next slide, please, 19. Slide 19. This is the 7th example of abrogation, which states, O you who believe, do not violate the rights of Allah or sanctify the sacred month. And this I already mentioned. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tuhillu sha'airallahi wala shahral haram. Do not violate the rights of Allah or the sanctity of the sacred months. And I already mentioned this in example number 3 about the months which are considered sacred, Zulqadda, Zulhajjah, Muharram, etc. These months are Rajab, they're considered sacred. There should not be any fighting or killing in these months, but these has become abrogated. If someone or the disbelievers are going to attack you or have war, then you can you have to defend yourself. So this has become abrogated by these verses. Now, the next example, 8. Here you have an example. This example, if there are amongst you 20 who are steadfast, they will overcome 200. Here, the equation is being given by how many persons represent how many. If those who are steadfast amongst you, there are 20, they will overcome 200. And if there are amongst you 100 who are steadfast, they will overcome 1,000 of those who have disbelieved. They give you an equation here. This is chapter 8, verse 65. Then this verse has become abrogated by another verse which states, and now Allah has lightened the hardship for you, and He knows that amongst you is weakness. So if there are from you 100 who are steadfast, they will overcome 200. And if they are amongst you 1,000, they will overcome 2,000 by the permission of Allah. Allahu Akbar. That is an example of how verses abrogate another verses. And example number 9 out of 12 here. An account of the verses of the Quran that are abrogated. This is example number 9. Example number 9 here, it states about the fornicator. he or she does not marry except a female or a male fornicator or those who ascribe partners to Allah, and none marries her except a fornicator or those who ascribe partners to Allah, a mushrik. And that has been made unlawful to the believers. Now, this verse is talking about to whom marriage should be conducted. If a fornicator should marry a fornicator, those who ascribe partners to Allah should ascribe partners to Allah. A believer should not get married to a fornicator, or a believer should not get married to those who ascribe partners to Allah. However, this verse became abrogated by the other verse of the Holy Quran, chapter 24, verse 32, which states, "And marry the unmarried amongst you, and the righteous amongst your male slaves and female slaves." Marry the unmarried amongst you, and the righteous amongst you, male slaves and female slaves. So here you get a typical examples. Next example, slide number 22. Here is another example, and you could come back to it because the writing is a bit small here. This example, not lawful to you, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or any additional woman after this, nor it is for you to exchange them for other wives, even if their beauty were to please you, except what your right hand possesses. This verse, chapter 33, verse 52, had become abrogated by another verse of the Holy Quran, which states, chapter 33, verse 50, it became abrogated, meaning, O Prophet, indeed we have made lawful to you your wives, to whom you have given their due compensation, and those whom your right hand possesses from what Allah has rewarded to you as captives, and the daughters of your paternal aunts, uncles, and daughters of your paternal aunts, and daughters of your maternal uncles, and daughters of your maternal aunts, who emigrated or migrated who migrated or emigrated with you, and a believing woman, if she gives herself to the Prophet, and if the Prophet wishes to marry her, and this is only for you, excluding the other believers. Here you find an example, 33 verse 30, chapter 33 verse 52 has become abrogated by chapter 33 verse 50 of the Holy Quran. And this is especially for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. An 11th example, which we already discussed in slide number 6, this here was the example of the charity of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Before you should have consolation with the Prophet, you should present a charity, and then Allah made it easy. He says, no, if you cannot give a charity, then Allah has forgiven you. It is easy for you. And the final example of abrogation, which I've come up with my research, and that's the final slide, is it mentions, Ya ayyuhal muzammil qumi layla illa qalila nisfahu aw inqus minhu qalila aw zid alayhi wa rattilil Qur'anan tartila. Chapter 73, verse 1 to 4, which states, O you who wraps himself in clothing, arise and pray the night, except for a little, half of it, or subtract from it a little, or add to it, or recite the Quran in measured recitation. It has become abrogated by the final verse that I'm going to present to you, chapter 73, verse 20. It states, Inna rabbaka ya'lamu annaka taqumu adna min sulathal layli ونصفه وثلثه وطائفة من الذين معك والله يقدر الليل والنهار علم أن لن تحصوه فتاب عليكم فاقرؤوا ما تيسر من القرآن, which states, Indeed your Lord knows, O Muhammad, that you stand in prayer almost 2/3 of the night, or half of it, or third of it, and so do a group of those who believe, and Allah determines the extent of the night and the day. He has known that you Muslims will not be able to do it, and has turned to you in forgiveness. So recite what is easy for you of the Quran. Before, chapter 73, verse 1 to 4 states that you should wake up and recite the Quran in the night, in measured recitation. Then the first 20 of chapter 73 said that Allah has made it easy for you. Recite the Quran as easily as you can. So dear brothers and sisters, beloved viewers, these are a few examples of abrogation. Abrogation meaning certain rulings are no longer applicable. So inshallah, when we are discussing the tafsir and I mentioned this ayat has become mansukh, or the ruling is no longer applicable here, you will have an understanding what is happening, inshallah. And may Allah Almighty cause us to have love for the Quran. May He increase our knowledge of the Quran. May He increase us with the correct recitation of the Holy Quran. May He grant us the capability to understand the Quran with correct Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah scholars, the correct scholars who interpret the Quran for you. May Allah Almighty bless us in this month of the month wherein the Holy Quran has revealed. May He make it easy for us. And this is all I have for you for today. And inshallah, in closing, let us make a dua so that we can ask Allah to bless us with the barakah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وصحبه سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, we make dua, beseech and begging and asking you, Ya Allah, accept this program in your court, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Make it easy for us, Ya Allah. Grant us to have more knowledge of the Holy Quran. If there were any mistakes in this program, please forgive us, Ya Allah. Have mercy on us. بحرمة ما أنزلت عليه سورة الفاتحة الفاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.